This is an interview with Ron Sanchez, Ph.D. Supervising psychologist, Utah State Prison. Sanchez works with convicted rapists. And this is what she says.
Do rapists admit their crimes? Do they tell the truth? Many of the rapists have what we call thinking errors, or criminal thinking patterns where they have a tendency to distort reality. In other words, they might interpret interactions with individuals differently than the rest of us. For example, as they interact with a female, they might interpret the way she responds to them in a very friendly manner by saying, "Hi." They might interpret that as that they are interested in them as having sex with him, to be blunt. They might see them dressed in a certain outfit and interpret that, there again, in a very different way than the rest of the population. I think that more often in this group of people and rapists that you do see what we call antisocial personality, we see more of them in this group of people. Is sex a motivation? I think sex is part of it. It's just a vehicle for their aggression. There again, it's not just about sex. Many of these individuals, at least on the surface, have a relationship with women and are having sex on a regular basis. But for some reason, they have chosen to go out and victimize people in this fashion. So it's other things besides sex. We hear a lot of rapists say they were abused as children. Is that true? When we work with sex offenders, one of the things that we do is try to help them figure out why they did what they did. There's a lot of information in the literature and even public opinion about sex offenders must have been sexually abused themselves. Many of them are. The thing that we have to keep in mind as we work with sex offenders is that many people are sexually abused but never become sexual predators themselves. So as an adult, I think the individuals need to begin to deal with those experiences that happened in childhood. One of the things recently, there has been a study of sex offenders that initially that the percent of sex offenders that reported being sexually abused was quite high, in the range of 70%. And then they took the same group of individuals and used a polygraph and the numbers declined. In other words, it reached something in the range of 30%, which would indicate that the sex offenders, for whatever reason, whether it was to gain sympathy or make excuses or whatever, said that they were sexually abused when they really weren't. It's not to minimize the impact of sexual abuse in a person's life. It's a very serious thing, but it was very interesting that many of them apparently made it up. How do rapists choose their victims? From my experience, there's a wide variety of reasons that sex offenders choose victims. I mean, they can range in age from very young to old, perhaps a focus on a particular eye color or hair color or body build, or the type of clothing that they might wear. But certainly, there is no one female profile that they would go after. The variety is not related necessarily to dress or those kind of things. One of the dynamics that we see operating is that as a rapist stalks their victim and eventually starts committing a rape, that one of the things that they do is treat the victim as not a human being. As avoiding any eye contact. Avoiding any emotional reaction to where they might begin to care for that individual about what they are doing. As you can imagine, committing that type of an offense against another human being, there's a tremendous amount of detachment, of dehumanizing that individual. They sometimes might put a pillowcase over the victim's head to avoid seeing them, to avoid seeing any facial expression, and by doing that they would avoid feeling. What about prevention? In terms of prevention, I mean certainly you have the physical things that you can do, and I don't think it sounds like we can't. I mean that's really important. Not everyone leaves their windows open. But on the other hand, gosh, I don't know how many I encounter, rapists that said they just walked right in. And that was amazing to me. I think people minimize that. They think, oh, locking my doors and windows, that's nothing.